Cheerleading is Killer. A Cheer Mom's Cozy Mystery. Book 4. Written and narrated by Lena Turner. Chapter 1. Mom, I can't find my shoes, my daughter Ashley said as she frantically dumped everything out of her backpack and suitcase onto the bed in our hotel room to locate the missing items. What do you mean? I said, fully understanding her, but mildly in shock. Just what I said, Mom. My shoes aren't here, she said, hands on her hips, as she surveyed the mess she'd made. I could see by the distraught look on her face that a meltdown was brewing. We had just arrived at our hotel next to the Chicago Convention Center, where she was competing this weekend with her cheer team, the Aces of Cherry City. They weren't competing today, but she was getting dressed for practice, which started in 30 minutes. Mom, what am I going to do? She said, on the verge of tears. Just think for a minute. Do you remember packing them? I said calmly. Ashley was usually very good about remembering everything. She always had a checklist and marked it off as she packed, something she had done since she was little, which I had always found cute. I don't know. Think. Close your eyes and go through your packing process. I'm sure the shoes are here somewhere, I said, though as I looked at the pile of clothes on the bed where the shoes should have been, I felt a little worried. I stayed silent while Ashley closed her eyes, presumably going through her routine. Suddenly, her eyes popped open, and she grinned. She turned around, walked to the bathroom, and came back with her oversized makeup bag. She set it on the bed, unzipped it, and gleefully pulled out a pair of tennis shoes. Thank goodness, she said. Thank Mom, I thought, but didn't say it. What are your shoes doing in your makeup bag? I said, placing my hands on my hips. I washed them, and when I packed my clothes, they weren't quite dry, so I didn't want to put them in my suitcase. She was already dressed except for the shoes, so she sat down to put them on and grimaced. Still damp? I asked. A little. It's kind of gross. I laughed. You'll just have to deal with it for practice, and we can set them in front of the heater or use the blow dryer later so they're not squishy tomorrow. Ashley jumped up and gave me a kiss on the cheek. Thanks, Mom. Now, are you ready? Almost. Let me just throw on some lip gloss and grab my purse, I said. We walked through the hotel to the skyway connecting to the convention center where they were practicing, and I felt a little claustrophobic from the number of cheerleaders and parents. This was the biggest competition of the year except for finals, and it was also the last chance to qualify, so the tension in the air was noticeable. Thankfully, Ashley's team had already qualified, so she didn't have that pressure. There's Megan and Taylor. I'll see you later, Mom, Ashley said as she ran off to join her teammates. I looked around for the other moms and spotted Diane, Stephanie, and Jenny standing together off to the side. I walked over to them. Traffic sure was horrible, Jenny said. I know. I was going to take Ashley out of school early to beat the rush, but I got tied up at Scoops, so we didn't get here early, I said. Anything wrong? Stephanie asked. No, just a big custom order for a birthday party. I wanted to make sure it was ready before I left. Scoops was the ice cream shop I owned in Cherry City, something I started after my husband passed away 5 years ago, which had grown into a successful business. You're so lucky to have a business you love, Diane said. What, you're not happy in real estate anymore? I asked. I don't know. I think I'm just burned out. Maybe you should take over Scoops and Abby can become a full-time detective, Stephanie joked, referring to my recent adventures. Funny. I'm looking forward to a quiet competition this weekend, I said. The girls have already qualified, so there's no pressure, and we're in Chicago, so we can enjoy ourselves. Speaking of shopping, do you want to head to the pop-up shops? Stephanie suggested. We agreed and made our way through the crowded hallway, feeling like we were moving against a current. The pop-up area was less crowded, probably because people were still getting ready for practice. These leggings, Diane said at the first booth, and when I felt the fabric, I understood the name Buttergoods. I don't want to buy anything yet, but we should come back, I said, and the others agreed. Brenda's Bows is over there, Stephanie said, so we headed that way. The booth was busy, and we each picked out bows before joining the line, but there was no one at the register. That's odd, Diane said. Maybe she stepped away, I suggested, though after 10 minutes of waiting and people leaving the line, it didn't feel right. She wouldn't leave all this unattended, Diane said, and I agreed. Here, hold these. I'm going to check the back, I said, handing her my bows. I pulled back the curtain and called out, "Hello," as I looked inside. Then I froze. Brenda was there, but she wasn't ignoring us. The blood pooled around her and the knife in her chest made it clear she was dead. So much for a quiet, routine cheer competition. Chapter 2. Once I had realized Brenda of Brenda's Bows was definitely not moving, I called 911. The other women and I stood in a huddle off to the side and watched the police, who had arrived pretty quickly, tape off the entire tent holding the pop-up shop, and I shuddered to think about what was behind the tape. I can't believe this happened again, Stephanie said, her eyes downcast. Whoever killed that woman should realize they won't get away with it with Abby on the case. I gave her a hard glance, feeling guilty for discovering a dead body, even though I shouldn't since I had nothing to do with it. I couldn't believe this was the 4th incident requiring police attention out of 7 competitions. It seemed unlikely that all of this would happen in one season. Had I known it would be like this, I may have pulled Zara out after the first competition, Jenny said, and I looked at her in disbelief. You guys are acting like cheer season is cursed, I said. Well, isn't it? Stephanie replied grimly. I wouldn't call it cursed, but there's definitely something going on, Diane added. Our girls have been cheering for years with nothing like this. And now this. I had to agree it was strange, though I still believed it was a series of terrible coincidences. On the bright side, the girls have been in first place the last few competitions, Stephanie said. If they do well this weekend, they'll be leading going into the championship. Do you think they'll cancel? Jenny asked. Diane shook her head. They didn't cancel before, and this isn't a judge or coach, she said. I cringed at how that sounded, but I understood her point. They don't start competing until tomorrow anyway, so hopefully this won't impact the girls too much, I said, grateful. Ashley hadn't been there. Excuse me, ladies. Which one of you found the body? A man in his mid-30s with sandy brown hair and piercing blue eyes asked as he approached. Me? I said, raising my hand. I'm Detective Raymond Guys, he said, showing his badge. Can I ask you a few questions? Sure. He glanced at the others, signaling he wanted to speak to me alone, and my friends headed off, telling me to meet them later. I turned back to the detective. Walk me through how you discovered the victim. Is it really Brenda? I asked, not wanting to believe it. I didn't know her personally, but I recognized her from competitions and respected her as a business owner. Did you know the victim? He asked. I shook my head and told him what I knew. Okay, walk me through your steps before you found her, he said again. I explained how we had been shopping, couldn't find anyone to ring us up, and I went to check the back. Do you make a habit of going into back rooms of stores? He asked, his tone slightly suspicious. Not really, but I own a small ice cream shop back home, so I understand how it is when you're working alone and have to step away, I said. He nodded, taking notes, then looked at me again. And that's it? Yes. There were other people there who saw me. How long will you be in town? Until Sunday night after awards. He handed me his card. If you think of anything else, call me and check in before you leave. Why? I asked, uneasy. Just protocol, since you found the victim. I can assure you I had nothing to do with Brenda's murder, I said. His eyebrows rose. How did you know she was murdered? The knife in her chest was my first clue, I said, more sarcastically than I should have. Enjoy the rest of the competition. I'll be in touch, he said before walking away. I sent Ashley a quick text to check on her, and she was still with her teammates. When I told her what had happened, she was shocked, and I told her to keep checking in with me. Then I headed back to the lobby, deciding I could use a glass of wine after everything that had just happened. Chapter 3. I went to Blue's and immediately spotted my friends at a corner table. Sliding into the empty seat they had saved for me, I slipped my purse strap over the back of my chair and sighed. I hope that glass of wine is for me, I said, taking a couple of deep breaths as I eyed the glass of white in front of me. Don't worry, we got you covered. That's for you. You look annoyed. What happened? Stephanie said. I think I'm a suspect. Even as I said it, I shook my head, because I couldn't really believe it, but it was the only thing that made sense. Oh my goodness, did the detective actually say that? Diane exclaimed. I shook my head. No. He didn't come right out and say it, but he definitely implied it. That's just crazy, Jenny said. What motive would you have to kill the bow lady? None, I said emphatically. Excuse me, ladies. Let me set these down, the waitress said as she placed a tray with 4 white wines in front of us. You ladies make it easy on me ordering the same thing. Can I get you any appetizers or shareables? I don't know about you guys, but I need carbs, I said, then asked, do you have cheesy fries or soft pretzels with cheese? We have both. Then one of each. You guys want anything else? How about nachos, Diane said, and I nodded. I'll put those in, the waitress said before walking away. I took a sip of wine. I wasn't a big drinker, but I did like the crisp grapefruit taste of Sauvignon Blanc. At home, I sometimes mixed it with club soda, but after that conversation with the detective, I didn't mind having it straight. So what exactly did he say? Diane asked, and I told them. Well, he didn't arrest you, so that's good, she said. Good point, I agreed. Are you going to investigate? Diane asked. I don't think so. The last few times were exhausting, and I'm not sure I want to go through that again. But this is different, Stephanie said. If he thinks you might be guilty, you need to clear your name. I agree, Diane said, and Jenny nodded. I made a non-committal sound, and we shifted the conversation to the competition until the waitress returned with the food. We went quiet as we divided everything and started eating. As I took a bite of a soft pretzel with cheese, I had to admit they were right. It made me uneasy that the detective even hinted I could be involved. I couldn't risk being treated like a suspect just because I found the body. I wouldn't even know where to start, I said. The only interaction I've had with her is buying bows. You didn't have a clear starting point the last times either, Stephanie said. Where does it make the most sense to begin? I guess the other pop-up shop owners, I said. Most of them travel to all the competitions, so they probably know each other. That makes sense, Diane said. After we eat, let's go back and ask around. They're open until 9, so we still have time. With food in my stomach and a little wine in my system, I had to agree that talking to the other vendors might be the best way to figure out who could have wanted Brenda dead. Chapter 4. We left the restaurant and headed to the pop-up shop area. It was supposed to be open until 9, and it was only 8:30. I just hoped that they hadn't closed the entire thing down early because of what had happened to Brenda. As that thought came to me, I felt a little bad. Someone had been killed. Then again, since I might be a suspect, there shouldn't be any guilt in having my self-preservation kick in. We got to the room, and I mentally crossed my fingers as we walked in. Luck was with me, because they had placed crime scene tape around Brenda's bows, but everything else seemed business as usual. There were lots of people milling around and several crowds at a few of the booths. Do you ladies know any of these other vendors? I asked, thinking it would be nice to have an in. I've bought a lot from Socks A Million, but I wouldn't say I know the woman who owns it. I can't even tell you if that's the woman who owns it or just someone who works there, Diane said. The other women chimed in, saying basically the same thing about a few of the other vendors. As nice as it would have been to have a bit of an in, it wasn't like I had expected it. Who are you going to talk to first? Stephanie said. We all stood at the opening of the room surveying the 9 other shops. I mean, I would think the ones closest to Brenda's bows would be the people who had the most chance to see if anyone strange had been hanging around, don't you think? I asked. I think that sounds like as good a plan as any, Stephanie said. Before I had a chance to second-guess my plan, Stephanie headed over to Socks A Million, and we trailed behind her. There were a couple of people looking around at the merchandise, but no one was in line, so I decided to talk to the woman behind the cash register. Hi, can I help you find something? The woman asked when the 4 of us reached her. At this, the other ladies looked at me, so apparently I was the spokesperson, and they were the sidekicks. I know this might sound odd, but I was wondering if you had seen what happened to Brenda at Brenda's Bows, I said, nodding my head in the direction of the crime scene tape. Isn't it horrible what happened to poor Brenda, the woman said, brushing a wisp of brunette hair behind her ear. She was a tiny woman and her toe kept tapping. I wondered if her nervous energy was what kept her skinny. Abby here was the one who found her, Jenny piped up, and I glared at her. Not that it was a secret, but I didn't want the conversation to be about finding Brenda's dead body as opposed to any information this woman might have. Oh my, that's horrible. You must be traumatized. Let me offer you some free socks, the woman said, nodding sympathetically. I wasn't exactly sure what kind of trauma she thought I may have experienced that socks would fix, but it was a nice gesture. That's why I'm asking you if you saw anything. I just feel so bad, and I guess I'm curious about what happened. All I know is that she seemed fine when we all got here and set up, and the next thing I knew, the cops were here, and she had been killed. Darn, I thought, keeping my face impassive so I didn't seem disappointed that this woman hadn't witnessed anything. Try Pam over there at Ultimate Stretch. She was really good friends with Brenda, so maybe she might have more information. My name is Donna, by the way. She held out her hand. Hi, Donna. My name is Abby, I said, and shook her hand as I introduced Diane, Jenny, and Stephanie. Nice to meet you, and I hope you find what you're looking for. We started to walk away when I heard Donna call after me. Don't forget to take your socks. Grab whatever you want. On your way out. I saw some with smiley faces on them that I knew Ashley would love, so I grabbed a pair off the display peg and stuffed them into my purse as I thanked Donna, again for her kindness. We walked over to the other pop-up shop. The person Donna had pointed out as Pam was with a customer, so we stood to the side while we waited for her to be free. I'm going to go grab some of those leggings from Butter Goods. I know that Taylor would love some of those. This fabric really is like butter, Stephanie said. Go ahead. No reason for all of us to wait, I said, though I was happy for the company. I moved a little closer to where Pam spoke to a customer, but still stayed a healthy distance away, so I wasn't hovering while she finished. So sorry about the wait, she said when the customer finally decided on something and paid for her purchase. No problem at all. I just have a question. Okay, the woman said with a smile that didn't quite reach her blue eyes. I am so sorry for your loss. I was the one who found Brenda, and Donna over there said that you guys were friends. Her eyes filled with tears. We were. We both started our pop-up shops on the cheer circuit the same year, and not only did we hit it off, but also learned a lot from each other business-wise. I really wanted to leave, but I'm kind of a one-woman shop, and I didn't want to close. I can't afford to miss the revenue. I felt bad. How horrible when she couldn't even have a day off to mourn her friend. I am so sorry. Thank you. So what are you wanting to know? I guess I'm curious who might have had anything against her. You know, just finding her and all, I said with a shudder. She gasped and then glared at me, her entire face going hard. I don't know what your angle is, but you're not getting any information from me. Now I suggest you leave. The tears were gone, and she was definitely angry, but I wasn't sure why or what I had said that had offended her so much. I don't mean any harm. Why couldn't you people just leave her alone? Now leave before I call security. I held my arms out and backed away, giving my friends a really odd glance as I walked to them. Stephanie was paying for her purchase, and the other women gathered around me. I didn't know what had just happened, but it made me wonder if someone had been after Brenda. And just how much did Pam know? Chapter 5. Ashley, honey, you did amazing. Your basket toss was so high there was almost room for her to do a double twist, I said, as I hugged my daughter after she and her teammates exited the back of the stage, where all of us parents waited. I don't think it was quite that high, Mom, Ashley said, but her grin showed how proud she was of her performance. Throwing another person in the air was hard work and had to be done correctly or serious injuries could happen. My daughter and her teammates spent countless hours in the gym to perform at this level, and this was definitely their year. After placing second for the past 3 years, the Aces of Cherry City had been performing exceptionally well, securing first place in recent competitions, and heading into the championship in a few weeks. Their standing favored them to win. After this performance, I didn't see that changing. "Well, I'm proud of you. I sure couldn't do it," I said. "Since we're done for the rest of the day, the girls and I were going to hang out and probably go to the pool if that's okay," she asked. "Of course. Just make sure to check in," I said. "I will," she replied before heading off with her friends. "I kind of miss the days when they were younger and wanted to spend time with us," Diane said. "Me too," I said wistfully. "So what do you ladies want to do?" Jenny asked. "I'm starving. How about lunch?" I suggested. "That sounds great," Jenny said. "Hey, Abby, isn't that the lady who got upset with you yesterday?" Diane asked, pointing. I looked over and saw Pam from Ultimate Stretch staring at me with a frown. "Wow, she really isn't happy with you," Stephanie said. I shrugged. "I don't know why. Like I said last night, she was talking about someone needing to leave Brenda alone, and I don't know if she thinks that's me." "Well, if looks could kill, Brenda wouldn't be the only one murdered," Diane said, her eyes wide. "Diane," Jenny said. "You know what I mean," Diane replied, glancing at me. I didn't take offense because it was accurate. Pam's glare was full of anger, and it made me think she knew more than she was saying or that Brenda had been involved in something. I mentioned this as we walked away, still feeling uneasy. "I need to figure out what Pam isn't telling us," I said as we reached the Mexican restaurant connected to the convention center. "I can think better on a full stomach," Jenny said. We gave the hostess our names and were told there would be a short wait. As we stood in the lobby, I spotted Donna, the owner of Socks A Million, outside. "I'll be right back. Order me a Diet Coke if you get seated," I said, heading out before anyone responded. I hurried to the courtyard where she stood under a tree and called out to her. "Hey, Donna." She turned and smiled. "How are you?" she asked. I paused to catch my breath. "Apparently not in great shape," I joked. She placed her hand on my arm in a familiar way that felt a little unexpected. "You should come by and get more socks. They motivate me to walk every morning," she said. "I'll keep that in mind. And thank you again. My daughter loved them," I said. She smiled brightly. "I'm glad." "I won't take much of your time, but I have a question," I said. She raised her eyebrows, encouraging me to continue. "Do you remember anyone giving Brenda a hard time? Maybe at this or another competition?" Donna frowned and thought for a moment before snapping her fingers. "Actually, a couple of competitions ago, I think in St. Louis, I saw her arguing with a man." My excitement grew. "Do you know who it was?" "No, we weren't that close." "She was closer to Pam." "I tried talking to Pam yesterday, but it didn't go well," I said. Donna chuckled. "That's just Pam. Their friendship always seemed odd because Brenda was outgoing and Pam is more reserved." "Pam seemed to think someone was after Brenda," I said. Donna laughed. "Who would be after any of us? We're just middle-aged women." I thought about that, knowing someone clearly had been after Brenda. Her reaction seemed odd. "I'm sorry, that was rude. I didn't sleep well. I keep thinking about what happened and wondering if it's safe to run my shop alone," she added. "Thank you for your time. I'll definitely be back for more socks," I said before heading back inside, my stomach growling. At least now I knew Brenda had argued with someone. I just needed to find out who and whether it had anything to do with her murder. Chapter 6. After lunch, the other cheer moms went back to their rooms to relax, but while that sounded appealing, I wanted to figure out who the man Donna saw arguing with Brenda was. The only place I could think to get that information was from the other pop-up shop vendors. I had let Pam run me off the night before and didn't want to repeat, but I figured midday during the competition there would be enough people around that she wouldn't notice me. And even if she did, it was a risk I was willing to take. As I stepped into the room with the pop-up shops, I saw it was busy just as I had hoped. Every booth had a line, and I couldn't help thinking how perfect it would be to sell ice cream here with so many people. I scanned the area and noticed Brenda's Bose was already being taken down, which seemed fast, so the police must have finished their work quickly. 2 men were packing her merchandise into totes, and since Pam's booth had a long line, I decided to talk to them. "Excuse me?" I called to a burly man with a beard who was carefully placing delicate bows into a container. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this booth is closed," he said. I smiled, letting him think I was just another customer. "That's too bad. I was hoping to get some bows for my daughter." "You and half the other women here," he said, gesturing to the crowd. "Oh, I bet you've had a lot of moms asking," I said. "That's an understatement, and most aren't as nice as you," he replied. I smiled, hoping to keep him talking. "Do you know what happened? Will she be at the next competition?" His expression grew serious. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I don't think she will be. The owner was murdered," he said, lowering his voice. I gasped. "No." He nodded. "I heard they found her lying on a bed of her own bows," he added. I knew that wasn't accurate, but I also knew how stories got exaggerated. "That's awful. Do you know if she has any family? I'd like to offer my condolences," I said. "That's kind of you, but I don't know. My buddy and I were just hired to pack everything up and take it to storage. We were paid by wire transfer, that's all I know." "What a tragedy," I said, shaking my head as I turned to leave. "Wait," he called out, pulling a few scraps of paper from his pocket. He sorted through them and handed me one. "This is the number of the person who hired us. It might help you." I tried not to show my excitement as I saved it in my phone. He handed me a business card as well. "If you ever need anything packed and moved, I'm your guy." I shook his hand. "Thanks. Nice to meet you." I turned to leave, eager to call the number, when I suddenly felt someone staring at me. I turned and saw Pam glaring at me, her face tight with anger, and I knew I needed to move quickly if I wanted to clear my name before things got worse. Chapter 7. I sat on my bed in the hotel room changing shoes when I heard a loud knock at the door. I wondered who it could be since anyone I knew would usually text instead of coming by. "Just a minute," I called out as I finished tying my tennis shoes, having changed from boots that were giving me a blister, and then looked through the peephole, feeling a sinking sensation in my stomach as I opened the door. "Hi, detective guys," I said, trying to keep the apprehension out of my voice. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. "Sure. Do you want to come in?" "How about you step out here in the hall?" he said. My stomach churned as I wondered if he was about to arrest me. "Just a second. Let me grab my key," I said, opening the door wide enough to grab it from the dresser before stepping out. I glanced both ways down the hall, figuring if he was alone, he probably wasn't there to arrest me, and besides, I hadn't done anything wrong. "How can I help you?" I asked, wanting to get it over with. "I got a complaint that you're harassing people," he said. "What?" I sputtered. "The caller said you were down at the pop-up shop bothering people." Now that I knew I wasn't being arrested, I felt anger rise. I put my hands on my hips and looked him in the eye. "I have a pretty good idea who you're referring to, and I can promise you I haven't even talked to her today. I don't know what her problem is with me, but the way she was glaring at me yesterday and today made it clear I should stay away." "What makes you think she was glaring at you?" he asked. "Because she was. I saw her earlier when we were leaving the competition and heading to lunch. After that, I went to the pop-up shops. You're not telling me I can't shop, are you?" "No," he said. "Well, I didn't talk to her at all. I avoided her because she clearly dislikes me, and I don't know why," I said, my voice rising slightly as I checked the hallway to make sure no one was listening. "So you were at the pop-up shops. Who were you talking to?" he asked. I felt a bit uneasy because I knew he wouldn't like that I had been asking questions. "I talked to the guys taking down Brenda's bows," I admitted. "Oh?" I was curious about what they were doing. Bows are a big deal in cheer, and I was there in the first place because I wanted to buy some for my daughter. So that's your only reason? He asked, skeptically. I crossed my fingers behind my back and nodded. The man I spoke to was nice. I don't think he would have complained, so it seems like Pam is going out of her way to target me. Why do you think she would do that? He asked. I don't know, I said, holding back what I really wanted to say. Do yourself a favor and stay away from her, he said. I will. I want nothing to do with her, I replied. Okay, take care, he said before walking off. I went back into my room and took a few deep breaths to calm myself because I was furious. But as I settled down, I realized Pam must truly believe I had something to do with Brenda's death. I needed to find out who had been bothering Brenda, and calling the number the man had given me seemed like the next step. I grabbed my phone, feeling a bit apprehensive, knowing the last thing I needed was another complaint, but my curiosity got the better of me, so I dialed the number and waited as it rang. Chapter 8. I sat in the coffee shop, in the hotel's lobby, waiting for Donna. I wasn't about to go back into the pop-up shop venue, even though I wanted to talk to her again because I felt like she was holding back. After getting nowhere when I called the number earlier, I figured this might give me more information. Diane had volunteered to go find out when Donna might have a break, and that had been an hour ago, so now I was waiting anxiously. I took a sip of my cold latte and watched people coming in until I finally saw Donna and raised my hand to get her attention. She pointed to the counter and I nodded, knowing she needed to grab something first. A few minutes later, she sat across from me with a coffee and a croissant. Thank you so much for meeting me, I said. I know your time is valuable. She took a bite of her croissant and held up a finger while she chewed. That's totally fine. Take your time, I said. I was glad you wanted to talk to me anyway because I had been hoping I would see you again, she said. Why? I asked. I don't know what you did, but Pam is not happy, she said hesitantly. I tried to stay calm and think before responding. Yeah, I get the feeling she has something against me, but it's completely unfounded. Who knows? She doesn't like me much either. In fact, the only person I think she liked was Brenda. Really? Yeah, she's one of those people who always talks badly about others. You wouldn't like what she's saying about you. Like what? I asked, trying to sound casual. She's telling people that since you found Brenda, it wouldn't surprise her if you were the one who killed her. I don't believe it, she added quickly. I felt my anger rise. It was one thing to jump to conclusions, but now she was spreading it around and even got the detective asking me questions. Thank you for telling me, I said. Of course. You don't seem like a killer, she said. Thank you, I replied, even though it felt like an odd compliment. The guys packing up Brenda's shop don't know who hired them. Someone called and sent a wire transfer. Did she ever talk about her family? I asked. Not much. She was going through a messy divorce and had 2 grown daughters. That's what we usually talked about, she said. Did you ever meet her husband? A few times, and I can tell you it's no wonder she wanted a divorce. He was kind of a jerk and didn't think much of her shop. He made comments that embarrassed her. How long had the divorce been going on? Since the start of the season. He told her he didn't want her doing the shop anymore, and she refused. She said it was her retirement plan, and she loved being here. That made me think, because if he wanted her to stop months ago, why wait until now to kill her, unless he had been planning it? Anything else you remember? I asked. She took another bite and shook her head. No, I wish I did. It's nerve-wracking being here now, seeing her space empty. Do you think we're in danger? I can't say for sure, but there's more security now, so I think you're safe, I said. She nodded. Here's my card. Call me if you think of anything, she said, sliding it across the table. Thanks, and I'll probably be back for more socks, I said. She stood, saying her break was over. As we said goodbye, I stood too, just as my phone rang. I looked down and saw it was the number I had called earlier, and finally, I would find out who it was and whether they could lead me to who killed Brenda. Chapter 9. Hello? I asked as I hurried out of the coffee shop into a quieter corner of the lobby where I could sit down. Is this Abby Winters? A male voice said. Yes. This is Harold. You left me a message. I pumped my fist, glad he had called back. Yes. Thank you so much. Sure. What can I do for you? He said impatiently. I explained who I was and why I'd called. You found my wife's body? He said in a tone I couldn't quite read. Brenda was your wife? Yes. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you. So you found her? He asked, brushing past my condolences in a way that felt strange. Why are you calling me? He added. I adjusted my approach. I know this is bad timing, but I was wondering if you had any idea who might have wanted to harm your wife. Why do you want to know? He asked. I'm just here for the competition with my daughter, and I was the one who found her body. Why do you care who killed her? He pressed. His tone felt more irritated than grieving. Because one of her friends seems to think I had something to do with it, and I'm trying to clear my name, I said. Don't tell me you're talking about Pam, he said with a laugh. Yes. I never understood why Brenda was friends with her. She's always so negative, he said. Then why was Brenda friends with her? I asked. There was a pause. I used to joke that Pam must have had something on her. Brenda always said she was nice once you got to know her, but I never saw it. I certainly hadn't either. Can you think of anyone who might have had an issue with Brenda? I asked again. Not off the top of my head. Another vendor said they saw her arguing with a man a few months ago. Was that you? No. I haven't been to a competition with her since last year. Do you know who it could have been? She did mention being upset about some poor quality bows she got from a supplier and said she hoped to confront the rep when they were at the same competition. Maybe it was him. Do you know the company? I asked. Another pause. No, I didn't really follow her business closely. Well, thank you for calling me back, and again, I'm sorry for your loss, I said. After we hung up, I slipped my phone into my purse and headed back to my room to do some research. It was a long shot, but it was the best lead I had. I also wanted to look into Pam, because her behavior didn't make sense. When I reached my door, my phone buzzed, and I saw Ashley checking in. So I replied and told her to update me again soon. I grabbed my key card and was about to go inside when I noticed a piece of paper on the floor. Thinking it might be a bill, I picked it up, and my blood ran cold as I read it. Don't worry about who killed Brenda. If you know what's good for you, you'll mind your own business. I turned it over, but there was nothing else. Someone clearly didn't want me digging into Brenda's murder. I didn't know if it was Pam or the actual killer, but either way, I needed to call the police. Chapter 10. As I stood there, I started shaking. Not from fear, but from anger. It was one thing for someone to complain to the detective or tell others they thought I had killed Brenda, but it was something else entirely to slide a threatening note under my door where my teenage daughter could have found it. If the note wasn't from Pam, that thought was even more unsettling because it meant whoever sent it was still out there. My next step was to rule Pam out. I grabbed my purse, slid my keycard into the front pocket, and headed straight back to the pop-up shop area, still furious. I spotted Pam at her booth and waited while she finished helping a customer, though I could tell she had already noticed me because her posture stiffened and she kept glancing in my direction. I stood there with my hands on my hips, taking deep breaths to steady myself. As soon as her customer left, I stepped forward, meeting her glare with my own. I don't know who you think you are, and I don't care how close you were to Brenda, but I draw the line at you leaving a threatening note under my door where my daughter could have found it, I said. I expected her to fire back, but instead her expression shifted to confusion, her arms dropping to her sides. What are you talking about? She asked evenly. I shoved the note into her hands. She read it, frowning deeply, then looked up at me. I didn't write this. My first instinct was not to believe her, but the confusion on her face seemed genuine, and a sinking feeling settled in my stomach as I realized that might be true. I took the note back, suddenly more concerned about who had left it. I didn't kill your friend, I said, my tone softer now. I know, she replied. You know? Then why have you been telling the detective and everyone else that I did, I asked. Pam lowered her head, and when she looked back up, I saw remorse in her eyes. I don't know. I guess blaming someone made it easier. I really miss her, she said, her voice breaking. My anger faded as I saw how much she was hurting. If Brenda had truly been one of her only friends, then her reaction made more sense, even if it didn't excuse her actions. I'm really sorry for your loss, I said. I wish there was some way I could help. You can, she said. How? Find Brenda's killer. Chapter 11. I'm starving. Thanks for coming to dinner with me, Pam said as we sat in the small deli at the convention center. It wasn't nearly as busy as the other places because the kids seemed to prefer the pizza place or the restaurant with the macaroni and cheese bar, and the adults usually chose one of the nicer restaurants. The deli was more of a quick stop, so there were plenty of tables and a bit of privacy. I also want to apologize for being so untrusting earlier. I never should have said I thought you might have killed Brenda, even if that's what I thought, Pam added, looking down at her food with pink cheeks. I reached over and patted her hand. It's okay. I get it. Your friend was murdered, and that's enough to send anyone over the edge. She took a bite of her turkey club while I picked at my chicken salad, not very hungry, but wanting to give her time to eat before we talked. After finishing part of her sandwich, she took a drink and looked at me. I haven't eaten much the last few days, but I think I'm done if you want to talk. I set down my fork. If you're sure I didn't kill Brenda, and I didn't, do you know anyone else who might have? I asked, focusing on finding useful information rather than questioning her earlier accusations. Again, I'm sorry, I just wanted someone to blame, she said. Really, it's okay. But someone did kill Brenda, and you knew her well. We were best friends. She was one of my only friends, Pam said, her voice heavy with sadness. I felt for her. I'm really sorry for your loss, and I'll do what I can to help figure this out. I talked to her ex-husband, and he seemed nice enough. He wouldn't have any reason to hurt her, would he? Pam's eyes widened in shock. No. Why would you even say that? She asked. I found her reaction a bit odd. No reason, just that most victims know their killers. Did you know her husband well? No. Just what Brenda told me, she said, hesitating slightly. Then how are you so sure he didn't do it, I asked. She paused before answering. Their divorce wasn't contentious, so he doesn't seem like a good suspect. I kept my expression neutral, even though that didn't match what I had heard. Her husband mentioned she had issues with a bow manufacturer. Do you know anything about that? I asked. Pam nodded. Yes. She had ordered from them for years, but recently the quality dropped. A few competitions ago in St. Louis, a rep came to talk to her and it got heated. That must be who Donna saw her arguing with, I said. Pam showed a flicker of annoyance. Donna gossips too much, but yes, that was probably it. I've never seen Brenda that upset, but she cared about her work. Do you know who the rep was? I asked. The company was called Apparel Unlimited, but I don't know the rep's name. Why do you think her husband packed up her business so quickly? I asked. You'd have to ask him, she said. I had the sense she wasn't being fully honest about him, though I didn't know why. Listen, I told my part-time help I'd be back in 30 minutes, so I need to go, Pam said. I understand. You'll let me know if you find anything? She asked. I nodded, but as I watched her leave, I couldn't help wondering if her sudden change in attitude had another motive behind it. Chapter 12. I got a lid for my salad so I could take it back to the room and refilled my drink before heading out of the deli and up to my room to meet Ashley. She was going to shower and change after hanging out at the pool and then head to her friend's room to watch movies, and I wanted to see her for a few minutes before she disappeared. It always amused me how we spent these weekends away and I barely saw her, but I knew she was having fun and I got to spend time with the other moms, so it worked. I pressed the up arrow for the elevator and waited when someone behind me said, "I can't believe you're siding with Pam." I turned to see Donna standing there, her face red, hands on her hips, eyes hard, and I wasn't sure why she was angry with me. "Is something wrong, Donna?" I asked. Yeah. What did Pam tell you after she threw you under the bus, trying to convince everyone you killed Brenda that now you're all friendly with her?" she said, stepping closer, and I stepped back, not afraid, but uncomfortable with how close she was getting. My back was nearly against the elevator doors, leaving me little room to move if she got more aggressive. "I don't know why you're upset. Pam and I talked it out, and she wants to find out who killed Brenda just like the rest of us," I said. "But she was telling everyone you did it. Why are you talking to her?" Her voice rose, and I noticed people starting to watch us, so I tried to calm things down. "Donna, I don't know why you're upset. Pam apologized, and I believe she meant it," I said. "She's just using you," Donna hissed, her eyes wild. "We're drawing attention. Can you lower your voice?" I said, glancing at the growing crowd. "I don't care who hears me. Pam is a horrible person. I wouldn't be surprised if she killed Brenda, and you're not much better," she said before storming off. As I watched her leave, I noticed Detective Guys across the lobby watching. I hoped he wouldn't come over, but instead he followed Donna, which gave me a little relief. I turned back to the elevator, pressing the button again and trying to ignore the onlookers. "What was her problem?" one woman asked, clearly having recorded the exchange. I shrugged. "I honestly don't know." She smiled. "These cheer moms sure get worked up." I couldn't help but grin. "That they do," I said as the elevator arrived. Back in the room, Ashley was out of the shower and blow-drying her hair. I stood in the doorway until she noticed me and turned it off. "Hi, Mom." "Having fun?" "Yeah. It's nice that we competed early. We're going to Zara's room to order pizza and watch movies, if that's okay." "You know, I always like spending time with you, but I get it," I said. "I'm glad you understand," she said with a straight face before laughing. "But seriously, if you want to hang out, that's fine too." I smiled, knowing she was just being kind. "It's fine, honey. I'll keep myself busy." "Yeah, I heard about the woman from Brenda's Bows," she said. I had hoped the girls wouldn't be talking about it, but that was unrealistic. "Yeah, it's horrible. I feel bad for her family." "Did you know them?" she asked. "No, but losing someone is devastating," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "Are you investigating this, Mom?" "I might be poking around a little," I admitted. "Don't tell Anthony. He won't like it," she said with a smile. "Don't worry about what I tell Anthony," I joked. She rushed out of the bathroom, grabbed her bag, tossed in pajamas, and took snacks from the cooler before giving me a quick kiss. "Have fun, Mom." "You too. Check in," I said. Once the room was quiet, I sat down with my laptop, ready to research Brenda's ex-husband in Apparel Unlimited. Chapter 13. Before going to Apparel Unlimited, I went to the Brenda's Bows website. I thought maybe if I checked out her social media, something might come to me as to who might have it out for this woman. I knew as a small business owner there was no shortage of trolls ready to attack a business for some real or perceived slight, and while I knew that rarely resulted in murder, it was still worth a look. When I got to the homepage of Brenda's Bows website, I was surprised to see there was already a message telling customers what had happened to Brenda, but that the team behind Brenda's Bows were committed to selling and fulfilling orders in the same manner Brenda herself had. I frowned and leaned back in my chair for a second. Brenda had been dead barely 24 hours, and already her pop-up shop had been packed up, and there was a note on her website essentially telling people it would be business as usual, even with Brenda gone. Now I could understand at some point putting a message like that out. But to do so immediately following her death meant someone, whoever was behind the message, felt it was important to reassure customers their orders would be fulfilled on the off chance anyone outside this competition knew Brenda had been murdered. They'd done it for one reason, and one reason only, to keep money flowing in. That thought took me back to thinking of Brenda's soon-to-be ex-husband, who I assumed was the one who had control of Brenda's bows now. I didn't find it far-fetched to think that a husband who might feel he was owed part of his wife's business in a divorce could go to such an extreme as murder. However, Pam had been adamant there was no way, in her opinion, that Brenda's husband was capable of murder. Then why did Donna think he was? How could two women have such differing opinions? I clicked through the rest of the pages on Brenda's website. It didn't look any different from the last time I'd been there, even though that was probably a few weeks ago. Then I went to the Facebook icon and clicked on it to take me to her Facebook page. As I started scrolling through posts, it became quickly apparent that Brenda had some issues going on in her business, and maybe elsewhere too. There were quite a few complaints saying what people bought at a pop-up shop and what they got after ordering online were vastly different. The quality of the bows purchased online was substandard, and several people were accusing Brenda of the old bait and switch. They insinuated she presented these beautiful, high-quality bows at her pop-up shops, luring people to believe what they ordered online would also be top quality. But from all these comments, it appeared that was not the case. I noticed Brenda didn't respond to any of these messages, which I didn't completely disagree with. You couldn't always answer everything online, and some people were going to be unhappy no matter what, but the way the criticisms had taken over her page, I knew as a business owner I would have done something to stop the negative comments, whether that be to apologize and say I would make everything right, or even just stop future comments. There were comments on there as recent as a couple of hours ago, so it looked like whatever the issue was with the bows, it hadn't been resolved. I knew I had always been happy with the bows I had bought in person or ordered from Brenda's website, but I hadn't ordered anything online in a little over a year. A couple of years ago, Ashley had been adamant that she have a different bow for every practice, but thankfully for my pocketbook, she had outgrown that. These bows were $25 to $50 a pop. I would also be livid if I had bought one of Brenda's superior crafted bows in person and then thought I would get the same quality online and didn't. But honestly, would anyone kill someone over a $50 bow? I kept looking through the comments, really feeling bad for Brenda. I was sure she knew about them, and maybe that was why she was fighting with the salesman from Apparel Unlimited. They had to have given her substandard merchandise. Then another comment caught my eye. This one was more of a personal nature and said, "You better watch your husband and your friends and all the people around you. They're not who you think." Surprisingly, the comment didn't get any likes or any further comments. I looked at the date and saw it had been posted about 9 months ago. I wondered when Brenda, or her husband, had filed for divorce. I knew that it was at least since the beginning of the cheer season, based on what Donna told me. Was this a good Samaritan trying to warn Brenda to watch her back? The person who'd made the comment was Tracy Sherman, but when I clicked on the name to go to her Facebook profile, it looked to be a fake account. There was one picture, the profile picture, which was an avatar, and there were no other posts on the account. So had someone created a fake Facebook account just to send one comment to warn Brenda about her husband in her inner circle? Did a comment from 9 months ago have anything to do with what had just happened to Brenda? Maybe the salesman from Apparel Unlimited would have some insight. Chapter 14. I clicked off Brenda's bows and Googled Apparel Unlimited. According to the website, the company was nationwide, and not for the first time I thought about how big an industry competitive cheer truly was. This company made bows, uniforms, and workout wear specifically for cheerleaders based on the fact sheet I was looking at and that they were a $1 billion company seemed insane. Both Pam and Donna had told me they had been in St. Louis when Brenda had the argument with her sales rep, so I went to the locations tab and saw that someone named Greg Kincaid was the St. Louis sales rep. Under his name, a number and an email address were listed, so I grabbed my phone, willing to give it a try, but thinking it would be a long shot for him to answer on a Saturday evening. Maybe I would get lucky since it was competition season and competitions happened on the weekends. and maybe he was on call for a cheerleading bow emergency, which made me chuckle. As expected, I got a voicemail, so I left a message, though I was not expecting a call back. I didn't want to sit there waiting for him since I wasn't sure he would return my call, so I went back down to the pop-up shops to ask Pam if Brenda had known about those horrible comments. When I got down to the venue and walked in, I was stunned. In the very spot where Brenda's bows had been was a brand new pop-up shop selling bows. I shook my head in disbelief, closed my eyes and opened them, thinking maybe I was hallucinating, but no, in the same place. Close to Pam and Donna's stalls was a new shop called Bows and More. As I walked up to the shop, Pam saw me and shrugged, shaking her head so I could tell she was just as surprised as I was. Was the space so competitive that within 24 hours of one going down there was already a replacement? There were quite a few people shopping, looking at bows when I walked up, and a young girl, probably in her early 20s, looking bubbly with her hair in a high ponytail, walked up to me. "Welcome to Bows and More," she said in a high-energy voice that matched her appearance. "Is there something I can help you find? We're running a grand opening special. Buy 2, get 1 free." I smiled at her and said, "No, thank you, but I'll just browse if you don't mind." "Of course. Like I said, everything is buy 2, get 1 free this weekend only." She began to walk away and I called out, "Excuse me," and she turned around. "Are you the owner? Do you know who the bow supplier is?" The young woman laughed. "No, I work for a company called Major Group and Associates." "Oh, have you worked for them long? I've never seen their other pop-up shops at competitions before." "I just started and I think this is the first pop-up shop." That seemed kind of interesting and quite a coincidence, because how would they get something organized and in motion so soon after Brenda's death? So do they sell other cheer things at competitions? I think so. They sell golf apparel, and I think they just decided to branch out into cheer. Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't want to keep you from your customers. The girl walked off, and I looked around for a minute. The bows looked just like all the other bows I had seen at competitions, which made sense, and I was sure there were only so many variations. I scanned some more of the racks to see if there was anything Ashley might want, but saw nothing that grabbed me. As I looked around, there was something vaguely familiar about some bows, but I shook off the feeling, chalking it up to the fact that I'd been staring at bows for years. I looked over at Pam, and she motioned for me to come over. "Can you believe that?" Pam said hotly when I reached her. "What, the new pop-up shop?" "Yes. Brenda's body is barely cold, and already someone has taken her place. I can't believe Holly would do something like this. I thought she liked Brenda." "Who's Holly?" "The sales coordinator here at the convention center. She manages the placements and contracts. She's the person you want to be in with to get good spots, and Brenda's Bows was a prime location. That location should have gone to someone else, not a brand new bow company." It did seem interesting if that was a coveted space that it wouldn't be offered to someone else first. Taking everything down just to move it a few feet and put it back up seemed like a bit of work, but I could understand. I knew Pam was more upset because another bow company was there, as if Brenda had never existed. "You know where I could find Holly?" "She's here, but I don't see her on the floor right now, so she's probably in her office. It's on the first floor of the convention center by the main entrance. You know where the ticket office is? There's a hallway where all the management offices are. Her name is Holly Gardner, and her door plaque will say Events Assistant." "I'm going to talk to her. I'll call and tell you what I find out." As I walked to the first floor of the convention center, I vibrated with excitement, thinking maybe this was finally the big break I was looking for. Chapter 15. I found the offices on the main floor of the convention center fairly quickly and got to Holly's office. I could see a brunette woman through the window, probably mid-30s, staring at a computer screen. I knocked on the door and she looked up with a flash of annoyance, probably because she'd been working on something and didn't want to be bothered. I totally understood that, but I also wanted answers, so I would not let her momentary scowl deter me. She motioned for me to come in, plastering a smile on her face, and I opened the door. I'm so sorry to bother you. I'll only take up a minute of your time, I said as soon as I walked in. No problem. I'm just dealing with paperwork I don't care to work on anyway, so you're not taking me away from anything enjoyable. How can I help you? On my short walk over here, I'd thought about how to start. I didn't want to lie, pretending I wanted to set up a pop-up shop. I didn't want to waste her time on something that would never happen, though I was pretty sure an ice cream shop would probably do phenomenally well with the kids, but I thought being honest was best. Well, obviously you know what happened to Brenda from Brenda's Bows, and I guess I just can't understand how you got a new bow pop-up shop here so quickly. The smile slid slightly from her face as she cocked her head and looked at me, I'm sure confused as to why I was asking. Who are you? I'm just a cheer mom and an avid bow shopper. I paused, thinking I'd better be completely honest. And I was the one who found Brenda, I said, guessing if I wasn't truthful, she would see absolutely no reason to tell me anything, but maybe knowing I found Brenda's body, she might take pity on me and be more forthcoming. I am so sorry that happened, she said. I appreciate it. Are you okay? I am. But that's not why I wanted to talk to you. Okay, she said, drawing out the word. I guess I don't understand. I just wondered how you got another vendor so quickly, one who sold bows. And how did they get what I heard was the top spot? I feel terrible about your experience, but I'm not sure why any of that is your business. She narrowed her eyes at me, suspicion clear on her face. Did she have something to hide? I guess I was just very loyal to Brenda's bows, and over the years have seen no other bow companies at a competition. And yet, less than 24 hours after Brenda was murdered, someone's taking her place. The police are the ones that should ask these questions, she said, and her voice lost the niceness and gained a hard edge. I'm sure they are. Have they already asked you? I don't think they would take too kindly to you nosing around in their investigation. Nope. You're probably right. I wasn't sure why I felt like being so argumentative with her, as that had not been my intent, but she was definitely on edge. All she would have needed to say was, I don't know, instead of throwing attitude. So, do you just have vendors that are on an emergency wait list to get a spot if one becomes available? Yes, that's how it works. I can't speak for other venues, but here we are, usually booked 2 years in advance, and good spots are scarce. I assure you, I follow all the rules and processes in place relating to new vendors. Then why didn't one of the more tenured vendors get that prime location? Holly's face flushed red, and she paused before answering. But she didn't really answer because she just said it was none of my business, followed by, I think you should leave. No problem. Thanks for your time, I said, and as I walked out, I knew I needed to figure out who this major group and associates was that owned Bows and More. Chapter 16. As I walked away from Holly's office, I realized I shouldn't be too shocked if Holly called detective guys and complained about me, though it wasn't like I was doing anything other than being a nuisance. I figured I would just have to deal with it if it happened, even though I was starting to second-guess myself because I probably shouldn't put myself on his radar any more than I already was. It was late, almost 8, so I hoped the pop-up shop wouldn't be too busy because I wanted to talk to Pam without disrupting her business, and maybe most people would be at dinner. When I got down there, it wasn't empty, but it was definitely less crowded than before. Pam stood behind the cash register with another woman, which I hoped meant she could step away for a minute. I walked over to Ultimate Stretch, caught her attention, and motioned for her to come over. She held up a finger for me to wait, spoke briefly with the other woman, and then came over. Were you able to talk to Holly? She asked. I did, and I have to say she was really defensive. How well do you know her? She's been the events assistant here for a few years and is always responsive, but I don't really know her, Pam said. She snapped when I asked how she got another bow vendor here so quickly, and even more when I asked why a new vendor got such a prime location, I said. Pam's eyes widened. Really? What do you think that means? I shrugged. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure she's hiding something. My guess is she knows she shouldn't have given that spot to Bows and More and doesn't want to admit it. But I have another question. Have you ever heard of Major Group and Associates? I asked. Pam paused and frowned. I don't think so. Why? That's the company that owns the new shop, or at least that's what the employee told me. Maybe there's something going on between them and Holly, I said. I've never heard of them, she repeated. The girl said they don't even sell cheer products, just golf apparel, and are branching into cheer. Golf? Pam asked. Yeah. Does that mean anything? No, it just seems odd, she said. It does, I agreed. My purse started vibrating, so I pulled out my phone and saw a St. Louis number. I think this might be that sales rep. I'll let you get back to work and talk to you later, I said, stepping away to a quieter area. Hello? Is this Abby Winters? A man asked. Yes. This is Greg Kincaid. You left me a message. Yes, thank you for calling back. I didn't expect a response on the weekend, I said. He chuckled. I work weekends during competition season. How can I help you? Are you looking to add bows to your products? I'm not a customer, but I have a question about one of your clients, I said. I'm not sure how much I can share, he replied. I expected that, but appreciated his tone. I understand, but it's about Brenda from Brenda's Bows, and I'm not sure if you heard, but she was murdered, I said. He gasped. Murdered? Yes. That's horrible. She was one of my best customers, he said. And I was one of hers, I added. As long as it's not about financials, I can answer a few questions, he said. I heard you had an argument with her in St. Louis, I said. He sighed. We hadn't spoken since then. She accused me of supplying inferior bows, saying she was getting complaints. I told her that was impossible. We had always had a great relationship. I thought calling her crazy probably hadn't helped, but he seemed genuinely upset. There were a lot of negative comments online about quality, I said. I can assure you those issues weren't from my company. Do you know if she ordered elsewhere? I don't think so. She had an exclusive contract with us, so that would be surprising, he said. Have you noticed anything unusual before that? I asked. Like what? She was going through a divorce, so maybe something affected her business, I said. She mentioned the divorce, but said business would continue as usual, he replied. One more question. Have you heard of Major Group and Associates? I asked. There was a pause. No? Why? Because a new bow shop just took her spot, and that's who owns it, I said. That's strange. We try to stay aware of everything in the industry, and I've never heard of them. Let me make some calls and get back to you, he said. After we hung up, I looked over at Bows and More. The young woman was helping customers, and while I didn't think she had anything to do with the murder, I had a strong feeling Major Group and Associates was worth investigating, and I intended to find out more. Chapter 17. Where are you guys? That's what we were wondering about you. We thought we said last night we would have a nightcap at that cute wine bar across the street from the convention center. I looked at my watch and realized it was way past when we were supposed to meet, and that I had completely forgotten. I am so sorry. It totally slipped my mind. You must be really busy playing detective because I know how you like Italian food, Diane teased me. I can be over there in 15 minutes. Order me a house red. Diane agreed, and I went to put the phone back in my purse when I noticed Detective Guys coming down the hallway. I wanted to go in his direction, but I also wanted to see where he was going, so I walked purposefully to the next room and went in. It was one of the competition areas where the music was loud, the lights were dark, and the spotlighting was over the top. I stood behind a group of parents, far enough in that I could see the door but not be too noticeable. After a few seconds, I saw Detective Guys step in, look around, and then turn and leave. My heart pounded as I wondered if he had been looking for me. It reminded me that what I was doing wasn't exactly something the police would appreciate. I told myself I wasn't interfering, just gathering information, and that I would go to him once I had something solid. I waited a few more minutes before leaving, even though I knew I would be even later. I texted Diane to tell her to have another breadstick and that I was on my way. When I finally made it across the street using the overhead walkway, I was ready to sit down and forget about detective guys for a bit. It's about time. We thought we wouldn't see you at all, Jenny said. I know, I'm sorry. So fill us in, Stephanie said. On what? I said as I grabbed a breadstick and dipped it into Alfredo sauce before taking a bite, earning mock glares from the others. Don't think you can keep secrets from us, Diane said. I gave them a quick rundown of what I had been doing, and they listened closely until the waiter came to take our order. Once he left, Diane spoke up. So do you think whoever owns Major Group and Associates killed Brenda and then paid off Holly for that prime spot? For a moment, I had considered that, but hearing it out loud made it seem unlikely. Kind of, but I think there has to be more to it. I know people kill for business reasons, but I can't imagine Brenda's Bose was making enough money to justify that. People kill for stupid reasons all the time, Stephanie said, and she had a point. Just because I wouldn't do something like that didn't mean someone else wouldn't. I'm hoping Greg calls back soon because if he can tell me more about that company, it might clear things up. At this point, I'd love a competition where no one gets murdered or kidnapped, I said, shaking my head. But look at how much fun you're having, Diane said. I couldn't deny that solving these mysteries was engaging, even if I wished no one had been hurt. I made a mental note to call Anthony later. Do you know what your next move is? Stephanie asked. I'm not sure, I said just as my phone rang. I saw it was Greg, but hesitated to answer at the table. For goodness sake, answer it, Diane said loudly enough to draw attention. Hello, I said quietly. Really? Are you sure? Okay, thank you, I said before hanging up. I set the phone down and the others looked at me expectantly. That was Greg. He found out who owns Major Group and Associates. Well, Diane said. It's Harold, Brenda's ex-husband. Chapter 18. I finished my eggplant parmesan in record time, even for me, and turned down dessert, something that rarely happened. I wanted to get back to my room where I had some privacy to call detective guys. I had barely tasted my food because I was so amped up after getting off the phone with Greg and finding out Brenda's ex-husband Harold owned the golf apparel company that had taken over Brenda's Bose spot with their own pop-up shop. This information was a clear sign her husband stood to gain something if Brenda was going to keep the business in the divorce. It felt like too much of a coincidence that just hours after Brenda was murdered, her shop was taken down and replaced by one connected to him. I excused myself from my friends, promising to let them know what the detective said, and soon I was back in my room digging his card out of my purse. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers, unsure if I was nervous about the information or the inevitable lecture. I dialed his number, hoping he would answer so I could get it over with, and after 2 rings I heard his voice. Detective guys. Hi, this is Abby Winters from the cheer competition. We talked, I said, stumbling slightly. Yes, I know who you are, he said. I found some information you might find valuable. I assume this came from you ignoring my advice to stay out of the investigation, he replied. I rolled my eyes, even though he couldn't see me. I heard Brenda had an argument with one of her manufacturers about bow quality, and customers were complaining online. I spoke to that manufacturer and found out the new pop-up shop that took her place is owned by her ex-husband Harold, I said, trying not to sound too pleased with myself. Ms. Winters, I realize you think you're being helpful, he said in a patronizing tone. That's all I'm trying to do, I interrupted. But what makes you think I don't already know this, he said. My stomach dropped because he was right. You're saying you already knew? Yes, Ms. Winters. Please call me Abby, I said, uncomfortable with his formal tone. But don't you think that's a motive? They were divorcing, she was keeping the business, and now she's dead and he steps in. It doesn't take much to connect that, I said. You're right about that, but he has a solid alibi, he replied. What is it? I asked, expecting him not to answer, but he surprised me. If I tell you, Will you promise to focus on the competition and not my investigation? Yes, but if I hear something, I won't ignore it, I said. Of course not, he said, his sarcasm clear. So what is his alibi? He was on a weekend getaway with his girlfriend. Girlfriend? Don't you think she would vouch for him no matter what? I asked before thinking it through. There was a pause, and then a sigh. Trust me, we verify everything. They were staying at the Windy City Hotel in Chicago, and it was confirmed. Now, if you don't mind, I have real leads to follow, he said before hanging up. I was frustrated because I still had questions. Brenda wasn't from Chicago, so it seemed suspicious that her ex-husband and his girlfriend were in the same city at the same time she was murdered. The detective hadn't given me a chance to press that point, but now I knew I would have to look into it myself. It was too late to do anything tonight, but in the morning I was going to start digging. Chapter 19. Sunday morning, as soon as Ashley got ready and left for the practice room, I decided to talk to Pam to see if Brenda had mentioned her ex having a girlfriend before I called the hotel. I shot off a text to Pam asking if she had time to meet for coffee so I could update her. While I waited for her to reply, I texted Ashley to tell her good luck, in case I didn't see her before she competed. Then I looked at the clock and realized I had 2 hours to do what I needed before I had to be at the competition venue, because there was no way I was going to miss my baby competing. I got a response from both of them at about the same time, Ashley saying thanks and sending me a selfie of her and her friends, and Pam saying to give her 20 minutes and she would meet me at the coffee shop. I used the 20 minutes to get the address of the hotel Harold was staying at and to freshen up. Soon I was at the coffee shop waiting for Pam, and when she walked in, I held up the coffee I had already gotten for her based on what she had ordered last time. Knowing she had a business to run, I wanted to reduce her time away. Whew, she said, taking the coffee. Thank you. I needed this, both the coffee and the break. This morning has been insane already, as business usually is the last day of the competition, but I will not complain. It pays my bills. I feel the same way about my ice cream shop. Some days my feet hurt so bad I can't imagine doing it all over again the next day, but it's satisfying to see the sales when I run my reports, I said. So what did you find out? Pam asked, and I filled her in on what I had learned from Greg at Apparel Unlimited and from Detective Guys. Wow, that's insane. I can't believe her ex would swoop in like that and start a bow business. I know. What I find even more surprising is he's in town for the weekend with his girlfriend, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. Did Brenda ever mention that he had a girlfriend? Pam bit her lip nervously, and I wanted to ask what was wrong, but then she started talking. Brenda mentioned she thought he was seeing someone, but I don't think she cared. At least it didn't seem that way. She said she was over him and couldn't wait to finalize the divorce. I thought for a second about asking if Pam had ever met him. Did you ever see Brenda and her husband together? Do you think there is any way he could have killed her? Pam shook her head. No, and from what Brenda told me, it was about control. But I don't see him going that far. The way she answered made me uneasy. She wouldn't meet my eyes and kept fidgeting with her cup. You were such good friends, but you never met her husband? I asked. Pam jumped slightly and seemed uncomfortable. Haven't you ever had a friend who didn't live in the same town as you, but you talked all the time? That's what our friendship was like. We were together every weekend during the season, and in the off-season we talked often, but we didn't visit each other's homes. So no, I don't think it's strange. When she put it that way, I had to agree, but I still felt like she was holding something back. I know you need to get back to work, but is there anything you can think of that Brenda mentioned about his girlfriend or who she might be? Pam shook her head. No. As we finished our coffees, my gut told me Pam was hiding something. I just didn't know what. Chapter 20. I had stayed at the coffee shop after Pam left to go back to work since it wasn't that crowded and I didn't want to go all the way to my room just to come back down in less than an hour to watch Ashley compete. Thank goodness for late checkout. I moved to a table in the corner for a little more privacy and dialed the hotel Brenda's ex-husband and girlfriend were staying in. Hello, Windy City Hotel. How can I help you? Yes, can you connect me to Harold Potter? Just a moment, she said. I'm sorry, but I don't see anyone by that name. I knew this was going to be a long shot, but I tried it anyway. Okay, how about Pam Green, I said, and again heard the young woman's tapping on the keyboard. Yes, we have a guest by that name. Want me to connect you to the room? I tried to hide my excitement as I said yes, then thanked her and listened to the ringing of the phone. My nervousness increased as I wasn't sure exactly what to say if someone answered. I didn't think that Pam would have gone back to the hotel, so if anyone answered, it would be Brenda's ex-husband. Different ideas ran through my head, but before I had time to settle on one, a man answered the phone, and I recognized his voice as that of Brenda's ex-husband, Harold. I took a deep breath as he said hello the second time. I'm sorry. Can I speak to Pam, please? I finally got out. Who is this? The man demanded. I decided not to answer his question and just asked again. Is she there? I don't know who this is. Don't call here again, he said, and slammed the phone down, and since it was an actual landline, it was loud in my ear. There was no way he didn't have something to hide, beside the girlfriend, of course, with that kind of attitude. Now I had confirmation that Pam not only knew Brenda's ex-husband, but clearly knew him well. But why hide it? Unless they both had something to do with her murder. I could see that she might think it was in poor taste to be with her friend's ex-husband, but surely hiding it was even worse. I briefly thought about calling Detective Guys, but realized it would probably be futile, as he'd been clear in our last conversation how little he wanted my help. Crap, I said to myself as I realized the time. Ashley was competing soon, and talking to Pam, which is what I wanted to do, would have to wait. I got to the competition venue and texted the other moms to see exactly where they were seated so I could sit with them. They said they were at the front, stage right, and I looked in that direction and saw them waving, so headed over there. I thought you were going to miss it. We saved you a seat, Diane said. Thanks. Sorry, I lost track of time. Did you find out anything else? Diane asked, and the other women looked at me. Yeah, but I also got a lecture from the detective about how I should stay out of everything. Well, if they did their job, you wouldn't have to, Diane said, and I smiled. I appreciated the support of my friends, who thought I was a better detective than the actual detective. We all quieted down as they announced that the Aces of Cherry City were next on stage. As always, my stomach got butterflies waiting for Ashley to perform. She and the other girls worried so much each time that they would make a mistake, and if it happened, my heart would just break. But I had to give them all credit. Each time they'd had a better performance than the last. They all worked so hard in the gym almost every day. The girls took their places and Ashley counted down 5, 6, 7, 8. Aces hit, and then the music started. As we watched our daughters tumble and stunt their way to another victory, we were barely able to contain our excitement, jumping up and down by the time they finished. There's no way that doesn't get first, I said. Even if we don't, it was a clean routine, and they would have to place lower than 6th to knock them out of the running for the championship, Diane said. The other moms agreed with Diane, and it thrilled us as we walked to the area where we met the athletes as they came out from the back. A few minutes later, as the team poured out, Ashley and her friends saw us. She came up, and I gave her a big hug. Perfect as usual, darling, I said, so proud. Ashley reached up and whispered into my ear, Have you found out anything about that murdered vendor? I hated that she was asking me, but it wasn't like I'd been able to hide anything from her after the events of the last few competitions. Not yet. Well, we have an hour and a half before awards, and I was going to go hang out with the girls, so I guess you have 90 minutes to figure it out, she said, laughing, as if I could solve a crime in 90 minutes. Though I didn't want to leave without talking to Pam because I was extremely curious about why she'd lied. Well, not sure that can happen, though there is one more thing I want to do, so I'll meet you at the awards. After that, we'll go check out and drive back home. Sounds like a plan, she said, kissing me on the cheek and heading off with her friends. I said my goodbyes to the ladies and headed out to talk to Pam, hoping this time she wouldn't lie to me. Chapter 21. I walked over to the vendor area. Whether Pam was busy or not, I needed to pull her aside and talk to her. I didn't understand why she was lying, and I wanted an answer. She had accused me of murdering Brenda, then apologized, and yet still held back this information. I was a little angry and felt I deserved an explanation. I got to Pam's stall, but she wasn't there. Her employee said she'd left 15 minutes ago and told her she'd be right back, but still hadn't returned. I decided I would wait around a few minutes and went over to Donna's to try and reconcile. I didn't like her being angry at me, and I didn't want to leave without talking to her. "Where's Donna?" I asked the girl working. "She left about 15 minutes ago, but said she would be right back. Can I help you with something?" "No, I need to talk to her. Thanks anyway." I walked away and got a sinking feeling in my stomach. It was an interesting coincidence that both Pam and Donna took a break at the same time, saying they would be right back. That seemed suspicious to me, even if they weren't friendly with each other. I walked back over to the girl working Donna's booth. "Did you see which way she went?" The girl pointed towards the curtains to the right. "She headed to the overstock area. I assumed she was grabbing some additional stock. We sold a lot today. I was busy with a customer, so we didn't really have time to discuss it." "Thanks," I said, and walked over to the curtains. When I got there, I heard shouting. There was a sign that said vendors only, but I wasn't about to let a little sign deter me in case it was Brenda and Pam back there. I slipped through the curtains and slowly walked towards the voices. "You killed her? She was my best friend, and you killed her," Pam yelled at Donna. I reached them, and Donna looked at me frantically. "I'm so glad you're here, Abby. Pam has lost her mind," Donna said. "Ladies, can we just calm down and have a conversation?" I said, feeling some anxiety, as I realized how easily this conversation could get out of hand. "I have nothing to say to her. She's a murderer," Pam said, pointing her finger at Donna. I wanted to defuse the situation before it got physical, so I took another step closer, putting myself between them. "Pam, what makes you think Donna killed Brenda?" I asked, wanting to point out that she'd recently accused me of killing her and now she thought it was Donna, but wisely, holding my tongue because I knew that would just add fuel to the fire. "I got an email Brenda sent the day she died. I had been so busy I didn't check my email until after we met for coffee. It said if anything happened to her, Donna was probably responsible." "That's a lie," Donna screamed. "You're the one sleeping with Brenda's husband." Pam's head reared back, and I could see the look on her face was pure shock. I didn't want to give her time to deny it, so I spoke up before she could. "Pam," I said gently, "I know you're staying at a hotel here with her ex-husband." Pam's mouth opened and shut a couple of times, but no sound came out. "I told you," Donna said, looking at me. "She's tried to blame everyone for Brenda's death, and she's the one sneaking around with Brenda's husband." "Yeah," I said, "husband. They weren't divorced yet." Pam put her hands over her face and broke down. "Pam, why did you lie?" I asked. "I knew how it would look. We were going to tell Brenda, I swear we were, but after the divorce was final." "Don't you think it was taking an enormous risk to stay in town at a hotel with him?" "I do not know what you're talking about," Pam said, shaking her head. "I have a room here at the hotel, connected to the convention center. I wouldn't have time to get to a hotel off-site." "I don't understand," I said, trailing off, looking at Pam, trying to figure out what was going on. I turned to look at Donna to see what she thought and noticed she was gone. Somehow, she'd snuck away while I was talking to Pam. Then things started falling into place. "We need to find Donna," I said to Pam, and took off at a run, going back through the curtains and scanning the crowd as Donna slipped out of a side door. I raced to follow her, realizing both women had been pitting me against the other. I thought Pam did it to protect her secret relationship. Donna most likely did it because she was jealous of Brenda's business and her relationship with Pam, and wanted Brenda out of the way. I went through the exit and saw Donna slip through another set of doors that looked to be a meeting room. I went through them and yelled out for her to stop, not really thinking she would, but to my surprise, she turned around, her face twisted in a sneer. "Don't come any closer," she threatened. "Donna, why?" I was tired of her arrogance, how she always had the best spot. She always had the best revenue. I knew a few months ago when I spotted her ex-husband and Pam together. He didn't know I saw them. I just had to bide my time, and it would be easy to pin it on Pam. Something I'm still going to do, though it would have been easier if you hadn't gotten in the way. But I've set enough evidence that they will never believe Pam didn't do it. Now you're going to let me leave. "Donna, wait," I said, and took another step toward her. She reached into her purse and pulled out a gun. I held my hands up and took a step back, as did Pam, who had stopped right next to me. "I would hate to make you collateral damage, Abby, but I will if I have to." "No one has to get hurt, Donna," I pleaded, not wanting her to get away, but not wanting to get shot either. "We can work this out." "You are so naive, Abby. There is nothing to work out except Pam is going down for Brenda's murder and I will get that prime location." Donna backed up to another set of exit doors. I thought we were goners, but maybe she cared more about making her getaway than killing us. I glanced at Pam with a hopeful look, not willing to put myself or her in danger because of the crazed look in Donna's eyes. If she needed to pull the trigger, I had no doubt she would. I reached for my phone to call Detective Guys as she reached the exit door. But before I could hit dial, the doors opened and the detective and 3 police officers were there. "Donna, you're under arrest for the murder of Brenda Potter," one of the officers said, and after a brief conversation with Detective Guys, the officers led Donna away. The detective came over to Pam and me. He had a thunderous look on his face, and I had a feeling whatever he was going to say was not going to be good. "You don't listen very well, do you?" "Usually I do," I said, and he just shook his head. "You know, you could have really been hurt," he said, his tone softening a little. "But I wasn't. And thank goodness you got here in time. We were on our way to arrest Donna, and her employee said she saw Donna followed by you running out the side door. You're lucky we got here in time." My knees felt a little weak, and I knew he was right. "But all's well that ends well," I said with a smile, and he just rolled his eyes. "You still have my card?" I nodded. "Come right back here after the awards to make your formal statement. You too," he said to Pam. "I will. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got awards to attend." We were in first coming into this event, and the girls had a flawless routine, though sometimes you never know what the judges would be looking for. But I was confident the girls would win. "And in second place, we have the Chicago Twisters," the announcer said, and the Twisters jumped up to accept their trophy. I saw my daughter and her teammates holding hands and crossing their fingers. While I couldn't imagine they had placed lower than third, you never knew, so either they had won nothing or everything. And now for our grand prize winner, which will entitle them to an all-expenses-paid 4-day, 3-night stay at Disney World and to take part in the Disney Parade, along with many other opportunities to show their cheer spirit. I am pleased to announce this year's winner. The moms and I grabbed hands, and I wish the announcer would hurry. The Aces of Cherry City. The girls exploded with excitement, jumping and screaming, hugging each other and us, their moms. I was so proud of them. Not only had they worked hard and deserved this, but I was ready to go home, relax, and spend time with Anthony. Thank goodness there was only one competition left, and hopefully it would be uneventful. I had had my fill of murder and mayhem. The end. You have just listened to Cheerleading is Killer, a Cheer Mom's Cozy Mystery. Book 4. Written and narrated by Lena Turner.